Greetings and welcome to the Comics Coffee Metal Podcast. I'm your host, DON CARDENAS, and today I'm joined by C.K. Carpenter, a writer and editor for the amazing looking anthology unSEEN, unHEARD, along with Tales from the Cloakroom, an anthology that was really great that came out a couple of years ago. CK has been doing amazing work in comics ever since I first heard their name. So I'm super glad they could be on the show today. CK, welcome. Come on.
Thanks. How are you?
Good. It's a nice balmy Wednesday evening in September here. I was hoping it'd be a little bit cooler out, but alas, it is not. But as you know, I think it might be a little more sticky down where you're at right now.
We're getting actually a lot of rain right now because I guess
Mm-hmm.
because of the hurricane.
Yeah.
So it's just it's just a mess right now out there.
Oh, yeah. We finally had some rain after like a few weeks, good long weeks without it, and we desperately needed it. But yeah, I have a brother who lives down near the Panhandle in Florida, and I'm just like fingers crossed for him because it looks like it's gonna be nasty. So,
For sure.
but let's not worry about terrible weather and climate change and those things. Let's talk about fun stuff. First off, I do want to get into unSEEN, unHEARD. It looks amazing, but you know the rules of this show, CK Comics Coffee Metal. What are you digging right now?
So I'm gonna let you down on the coffee part
No
because I don't
worries.
drink. I'm a true tried and true Southerner. All I drink is Southern sweet tea and Pinot Grigio
Nice.
wine. That's pretty much all I drink. So I'm gonna let you down there. But I would love to talk about some metal music that I've been into, which
Awesome.
really is a sentence I never thought I would say. I was one of those people that was always like, "Oh, metal is just like screaming really loudly and masculine energy." And as a queer
Hmm.
Southerner, I'm like, no, thank you. That's too reminiscent of certain things that I don't want to go
Yeah.
back to. But on one of your episodes, you were talking, you and your guests were talking about folk metal, and I
Yeah.
was like, okay, well let's try this out and see what it's about. And so I started exploring a couple of months ago about folk metal, and I discovered a couple of musical groups that I really am liking. I'm going to probably butcher the names, but one of them is I think you pronounce it Skald, Skald. It's like
Yeah. Yeah. Scold. Yeah.
it's got like a lot of Viking chants to it,
Hmm. Hmm.
and like they do a cover of Seven Nation Army that is really good.
Oh, really?
And
Okay.
so I'm really digging them a lot. Every time I
Cool.
get kind of my routine gets monotonous, I just pop them in and I'm like, okay, they energize me again. So they're really
Nice.
cool.
Nice. Nice.
Another one I'm really digging is Autiken, which is a Siberian indigenous group.
Okay.
And they do a lot of like throat singing and
Hmm.
things mixed in with the music, and they're a lot of fun. There it gets some of the songs sound a little too similar, so I can't listen to
Yeah.
them for like a long time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I really am digging that music as well.
Cool.
And then the
Um.
last one, oh, go ahead.
No. No. Have you heard of the Who? The
Uh,
HU. The Who.
yes.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Good. No, because you mentioned like the throat singing, and I'm like, that's yeah. I've just started listening to them again after a long time, and it kind of rings the same way. Like it's really good stuff, but it's also like a lot of it's similar sounding, so it's kind of like you can't have too much of it. Uh, but go on. You're about to mention another band, I believe.
Uh, and of course, I want any recommendations you got here as
Hmm.
well. But the last one is Snow Raven, which is another
Snow
Siberian
Raven.
indigenous. I
Okay.
think I'm assuming a woman. I don't want to presume their pronouns or anything like that, but um, it's much more laid back. I was surprised that they were like actually in the metal like section of Spotify.
Okay.
But it's a little bit more laid back. They got a couple of ones that are energetic, but mostly it's a lot of like eccentric sounds and like different kind of breath work that's mixed together to make music, and very tied to their indigenous roots, and it's really cool. But very laid back, very calming, and I was like, okay, this does not seem to vibe with the idea of any type of metal music. But
Yeah.
so I don't know if they're on the cusp of it or what, but I'm really digging them as well.
No, aside from Scold, I haven't heard of the other two, so I'm excited to go check those out.
Otyken
Um,
is really cool. Otyken. They're really cool. I think you might dig them over Snow Raven.
okay, cool, cool.
But yeah, if you know any of them that are kind of like Scold, that's the favorite of my three. So I would love to check out some more because
Nice,
I'm a
nice.
newbie to metal. So
Well, based on those bands, like I'm not sure who else I would like really recommend because I haven't like really dug into like that kind of metal recently. A lot of I've been leaning more towards more higher energy kind of stuff and stuff like that.
mhm.
Um, mainly because some of my favorite bands have been releasing new albums and stuff like that. But I mean, if you like something that just kind of has like good melodies, maybe even like some folksy or just more like traditional style instruments. I mean, there's always Nightwish. They've
Okay.
always they just released a new album actually. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them at all. Uh,
Is that the one that you tend to recommend a lot?
Nightwish. I don't think I've recommended them a ton lately.
Okay. All
I've
right.
been, I know I recommend a lot. I recommend Spirit Box and like Orbit Culture and Gojira a lot, but those are like heavier,
Okay.
aggressive type stuff. But Nightwish is definitely they kind of started. Not, they were one of the early like symphonic metal bands, but they also included like a lot of like I believe they're Norwegian or Swedish, and they included a lot of like traditional style instruments and stuff like that. And one of their, so they weren't like, it wouldn't be unusual to hear, violins or like kind of like
Oh
lute
wow.
stuff or even like some accordion stuff or stuff like that. Like occasionally it's like tossed in the mixes there. They've been around for 30 years now, I want to say almost. So they've gone through three singers. So their first era kind of is with their original single Tarja, and she's very much a classically trained operatic singer, and that's a lot more of their symphonic, folky kind of stuff. And when I say folky, it's definitely more like when we think like medieval folky kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Um, but it's definitely very, there's definitely like big guitar stuff and stuff like that. But it's also like they have those other elements. And then they had another singer after Tarja left named Annette, and that was definitely more of a hard rocky, almost poppier kind of sound because she wasn't as operatic as the previous singer, but she definitely had more of a tonality for faster paced, groovier kind of stuff. And now their current singer, Floor, um, she kind of does it all.
Wow.
The one thing I do recommend, I do say is like, um, here, okay, it's a long song. It's called Ghost Love Score. I'll send you the link to it after the show. But if I forget to, if you Google Ghost Love Score or just search in YouTube, Ghost Love Score Buenos Aires, I think it's 2010 or 2011, something like that. That was like one of their early live shows with her. But it's also kind of like if you like that song, you'll like Nightwish.
Okay.
Like it's this big, it's this big. Let me see if I can pull up the exact one because I don't know why. Buenos Aires 2012. Okay. Um, for some reason, just like her performance in that song was like amongst the Nightwish fans. Like when that video came out, everyone was like, they already knew she was a great singer, but like there's like a certain part at the end of the song where she hits this note and holds it. Everyone's like, oh no, okay, we're gonna eat. This is gonna be good. This is gonna be good. Because the second singer Annette, she had a lot of health problems with her voice and stuff like that, and she just wasn't as a big of a singer. Definitely a good singer, but it's not as big and operatic as the fans really kind of wanted for the most part, or at least for the other songs, because arguably their biggest sales were during her era. But yeah, they just came out with a new one. They've kind of they've come back to a more traditional symphonic metal sound. So I think they're kind of like the Metallica of that genre.
Okay.
So it's like if you like them, then that would definitely be like a gateway to other stuff in that realm, I would say. And if you don't like them, then most likely you're not really find much else in that genre that you're going to care for. Um, so yeah, I would definitely recommend them. Uh, yeah, because also like I just been stuck in some of the bands I've been listening to because my wife and I were getting ready to go to a concert this weekend, our first concert in like 9 years, ever
Wow.
since our kids were born. And it's going to be Spirit Box and Gojira. They're opening for Korn, which I could care less for. But not that I don't like them. It's just like, do I leave at 8:30 and get home before 10, or do I stay and watch Korn? It's really a 50-50, you know. But I'm really excited. So I just been kind of like jamming them, and thanks to like there's a website called setlist.fm where people like if they go to a show, you can post a set list that the band played at the show. You can log what times they started, so people who are like following bands, they can see what set lists are being played. So like I'm excited to like see like some of my favorite songs are on the set list. I'm just kind of like pumping myself up for that. So I've just been kind of stuck in that mode for a bit. But as the weather cools, as things get a little bit more chill all around, I do find myself going. Um, that's kind of the season where I do kind of get into some of that more folk gear type, or like the synth metal stuff. I find my mood kind of changes into that, something that's just more laid back and more like kind of fitting to me, I guess. In that season, do you find yourself doing that for like seasons? Like you kind of find like you have like a certain type of like mood of music you lock into for a season, or is it?
I'm pretty set in my ways, so I'll
Mhm.
just find like what I like and I kind of stick to it, and I don't swerve out of that lane.
Mhm.
But that's like with this folk metal, I'm trying to experiment a lot lately, but because I'm way too set in my ways, I'm like I like rap, and I'm just going to listen to rap, and I'm
Yeah.
not really branching out. But thanks to my friend Anis, that um, I'm trying new stuff, so they'll send me like K-pop stuff or
Mhm.
like K-pop that's like bordering on rap, and I'm like, okay, I'm digging this, and I need to really branch out instead of sticking to Nicki Minaj all the time. So,
Well, I mean, have you checked out Baby Metal?
no, I haven't heard of that one.
That it's essentially J-pop metal.
Okay,
It's very much that kind of like that very like bubble gummy kind of like lyrical lyrics and melodies, but just under some like because when they first came out, I'm like, I didn't care for them at all because it felt like a gimmick that I really was. I didn't get it, you know. And then there's like one or two songs that popped up, and I'm like, okay, I'm not 100% sold on like these vocals or whatever, but the music behind it is really killer. Like these are some awesome riffs behind here. And then all of a sudden, like one day, like I'm just like, oh wait, do I like this song now? Like the whole thing now? And now it's just like, okay, they're cool, you know. Um, but they recently did a collab with another band I like called Electric Callboy, who is very much what was that band? They had that song that was on like everyone used in their weddings for a while. 303 was it? Their name? Party Rock or something like that was um anyway, it's like Electric Callboy is very much like Euro dance metal because it has a lot of like that kind of elements of like the electronics and the beats, but it's also big groovy riffs and some screaming, some singing vocal melodies. And then they did a song called Rata Ta Ta with Baby Metal, which is just like it was like peanut butter and chocolate for so many of us. We're like, oh, this is of course this makes sense. Of course this is awesome. So I was just maybe checking them out too if you do like that kind of K-pop, J-pop kind of sound. Like
okay.
it's very much that over just big fat guitar riffs. Um, they have like, I mean, they literally have a song called "Gimme Chocolate." Like it's just, or I don't know what a ton of the songs are, but like it's just a good fun thing to listen to. So I would suggest that if you're looking to branch out a little bit more, and especially if you're not, a fan of very understandably of like the more screamy kind of stuff, because you know it took me a long time to get like used to that kind of stuff too. Like, for the longest time, the most aggressive like vocal band I would like is something like Static X or like Pantera. But like even then, they were kind of screaming in key. They're kind of scream singing almost, like this more old atonal, like just low guttural stuff. I never really got into until much later. And again, I completely understand. It's like if someone's like, I don't get this, and I'm like, I get it. It's fine. I completely understand.
Electric Cowboy was the one I was thinking of earlier when I
Okay.
said, "Is that the one you tend to recommend to
Okay.
people?"
Yeah.
That's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah. Cause they're just like a fun band. Like, it's just like, even if like you don't like it, I think you'll walk away with saying like, all right, that's still kind of like fun to listen to. Like, it's not my thing, but like, I don't like, it wasn't like, hard to listen to, I should say. This is really easy, something
Right.
really easy to listen to and like put on, if it's not your kind of, even if it's not your kind of thing. So, but yeah, it's I do tend to get stuck in my ways, with stuff, but like doing the show and all that, I kind of have to branch out. I have to, like you mentioned, two bands I've never heard of before, and another band I haven't really dug into. So I'm like, all right, write them down, you know, toss them on, one day, and then next thing you know, which I kind of love, because I think I've kind of trained myself to be very, I thought I was never like closed off about music, but I trained myself to just be open to like enjoying newer stuff faster than I normally would. Because sometimes it would take quite a few spins of something for me to like get to it. Do you have any, is that kind of how like you take in music at all? Do you need to like sit with things for a while, or is like, if you instantly grabs you, then that's what it is?
More the latter. It's
Okay.
like if I just listen to a little bit of it and I'm digging it, then I'm in.
Hmm.
And then if I hear a little bit of it and I'm not digging it, I'm out, kind of thing. It's
Okay.
very knee jerk reaction for me. So probably not the best way to approach music. It's probably better to like actually explore and give things a
Yeah.
chance and not make up your
Well,
mind off of 10 seconds of a music.
well, I would not judge anyone's, because for a while, I think I actually streamed it a few times. Like on Fridays, like I would just go to Apple Music and I would just go to metal and click through whatever's new. I'll listen to something for a few seconds, and if it didn't grab me, I'd move on to something else. It seemed very scattershot and all that, and it wasn't that I wasn't trying to give these bands a fair shot. It's just like, right now, what do you got? Like, show me something, and then I feel like I've at least listened to enough stuff that I kind of have, a gauge if it's going to be my thing or not. If a band is exhibiting things that I'm like, okay, I think I want some more of what they're doing, or I like what they're doing and they're doing one of the things I like, and stuff like that. So I don't judge a quick reaction at all, because who's got time anymore, really? And it's it's your time. You choose how you want to do it. And if you feel best, spending your time listening to music, or watching things or reading things that like this instantly grab me and I love it and I'm going to enjoy it, great. That's far be it from me to be someone like, no, you need to like sit down and experience this. No, no, don't do that. Please don't do that. No one do that, please. Just like the things you like. There's too many people complaining about things they don't like. Just don't do that to yourself. If it's not grabbing you, just move on. Just go. There's plenty of other things. There's so many things. Too many things, actually.
For sure.
But yeah, so I'll try to send you some links to those bands,
Yes,
and
please.
some of those things. Hopefully I can make some converts, because if you've heard a few of the episodes, people who aren't metal people, I'm trying to make some converts. I'm trying to like say, let's find her in. Let's find her. How can I get you listening to metal today?
Well, we the editors behind Unseen Unheard, we have a Discord, Unseen Alchemy Publishing, and in that Discord, we have a Pods and Music channel. and I've been
Mhm.
popping in the metal that I've been listening
Yeah.
to, and we have some people in there that are like, okay, this is good, and
Nice.
they
Nice.
wouldn't have said that they liked metal before that. So I'm trying
Nice.
to get some converts for you there as well.
Oh, I and all the other fellow metalheads appreciate it because and again, I say this a lot, and I say this a lot because I do. Metal and comics, like they're so diverse. You tell me you love metal. You've named three bands that two other people who said they love metal would not even like care for it all, but they love an entirely different kind of metal, and that's all great. And same thing with comics and all that. And on that, comics. What have you had time to enjoy any comics? Because you're making them. You got the Kickstarter going. I know how incredibly difficult that is to stay on top of anything. So have you had a chance to sit down and at least enjoy some recently?
Yeah, totally. I always make time for comics. You've got to find something that's relaxing, and for me,
Mm-hmm.
comics kind of helps me decompress from the day. So I actually have a stack over here. So something I read recently that I really enjoyed was The Jellyfish by Boom. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that name correctly, Boum, but it is about to kind of similar to unseen unheard, where we're tackling disabilities and neurodivergent situations and things like that, neurodivergent conditions. I mean, the jellyfish is about this person who sees a jellyfish in the corner of their eye, and it turns out that they're slowly going blind, and
Mm-hmm.
they're going to lose their vision. And it's about and it's a queer character, which I'm queer, so that's another reason to be into it. And it's about just throughout the graphic novel, that character just slowly loses their vision. They see more and more jellyfish popping up in their
Mm-hmm.
eyes, and so it's an interesting artistic expression on the page as well. And it was really good, and it's just about the them and their girlfriend coming to terms with their upcoming blindness. And
Mm.
it was really, really moving. It's probably one of the best things I've read this year, so it was awesome. So that's The Jellyfish by Boom, and I highly suggest it for any
Is that a
listeners.
is that from a publisher or is that self published?
This one, it's by Pow Pow is the publisher. POW Pow Pow.
Jellyfish. Boom.
Pow Pow Press, yeah. There's
Okay.
the cover right there. So you
Cool.
can see the
That
jellyfish
looks
over
cool.
the eyeball.
Trying to make sure I get that at least in my search.
Sorry, I don't know if you can hear my dog, but
Yeah, it's okay.
my
All,
neighbors just showed up, so he'll stop in a minute.
all furry friends are welcome onto the show. I'm surprised our dog hasn't made an appearance yet because granted I record later at night, but like he's half beagle, half why am I forgetting the name of it all of a sudden? Healer, blue healer, basically, was it for reference for other people, Bluey, the type of dog Bluey is. He's half that, half beagle, and he's definitely got the beagle. I'm going to be a loud little mf'er whenever someone's in my area. So I'm surprised that he hasn't made an appearance on the pod yet, but I'm sure he will
Well,
one day.
mine play musical chairs. I'm in an oversized chair right now, and they play musical chairs. And they'll
Hmm.
like one will sit with me and then leave. So one might pop their head into the frame here in a little bit.
I
But
hope so.
yeah, they're good doggies. They're just chilling right
Yeah.
now.
Uh,
But the jellyfish, yeah, very, very
yeah.
good comic.
Awesome.
Um, Another one, I noticed a trend with these next few is they're all like demonic and cult
Hmm.
related, and I didn't realize that. But Loving Ohio is another one,
Okay.
and it is about a group of teens in Ohio, of course, and they live in Loving, and they want to get out of that city. And it turns out that there's like a this small town cult that kind of just oversees the community. Not like
Hmm.
anything too menacing or like Satan worshiping or anything like that, but it's just more like they control everything. And
Okay.
then there's also a serial killer on the loose, so a lot of teenagers are disappearing, and and nobody's really looking into it. And so then throughout the book, you learn what's really going on, and I can't say much more than that. It starts off really slow, like a really slow burn, but then about
Hmm.
halfway through, it really picks up the pace, and then that's when I fell in love with it. It was really really good.
Cool. Nice.
And That's by Matthew Ehrman and Sam Beck.
I've seen
It
that.
was
Yeah, I've
just good.
seen the title of that float around online a bit, but I didn't know exactly what it was because I would not have not that it's not a good title, but I wouldn't have been like, oh, this might be some sort of like cool, creepy thing to me loving
Exactly.
Ohio.
I
Uh,
also like the kind of I wouldn't necessarily say punk aesthetic about it, but this kind of teenage angst where it's like, we really need to get the hell out of here kind of thing. I just like that vibe in general when a
hmm.
book is like that. And
Nice.
so it was a good one.
Cool, cool, awesome.
Um, I'll talk about one more, and this one you've heard of, I'm sure, which is Somna by Becky Clune and Tula
Yeah,
Lotay.
yeah, yeah.
That which is basically like this erotic book about a demon trying to seduce a woman, and this is back when they were accusing a lot of people of witchcraft and things like that. It's probably the best book I've read this year. It was just
Nice,
phenomenal. I was really
awesome.
surprised by how good it was.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I had Holly Aitchison on a couple episodes ago, and she did a translation of a book called Hanami, which is excellent. I don't know if you're familiar with that book at all, but it's definitely
Mm-mm.
something that was like not something I would normally read, but uh, since Holly does a lot of work in with a lot of various publishers and stuff. She's always been awesome about sending stuff my way, just
Mm-hmm.
because. And I definitely feel like it might be. It's a very much a slice of life thing, about a woman and her boyfriend, and they kind of realize they're at a point in their lives to where they can finally like go and make a trip to live in Japan for a year. So it's all about them making that decision, living in there, and like the kind of the culture shock of it all, but also how they adapt to it and stuff like that, and then how their lives evolve from there. And it's really great, uh, really great graphic novel that I highly recommend to anybody. It is definitely one of the best ones I've read this year for sure. Even though I'm drastically behind on a lot of a lot of graphic novels. Um, there's a I don't know. I think this might be up your alley. But last year, my buddy Mike Norton put out a book called "The Rock Gods of Jackson, Tennessee,"
Whoa, that's
um,
a cool title.
and it was him and Rafer Roberts, um, and they had done a bunch of work before with another series called Grumble and all that. But it's got that '80s small town, like, we're trying to be in a band, and we have bigger aspirations for things, but it's also like got mutant warthogs. um it's like the best coming of age '80s rock movie you've never heard of before. It was definitely one of my favorite graphic novels last year, and I think that's something I think you would dig it. I think you would really like it. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Mike Norton's work, um, but he's been in the industry for, you know, 20 plus years. He's worked on everything, anything and
Okay.
everything. He has that series Revival at Image with Tim Seeley, which is now a TV show they're making. I think he's working on some more DC stuff now. He's got Battle Pug, Mike's an amazing guy. He's an amazing artist. And I'm glad that he finally did this book because it's like one of my favorite things ever. And it's one of the things again I love about comics and like working in comics is that I get to meet these amazing, awesome people who I get to call friends, and then they make things that I'm like, I'm gonna love this thing forever. And my friend made this. This is amazing. Like it's just one of those nice things about working comics that I try to remember because sometimes it can be a lot. The comics industry could be a very demoralizing place, but I think it's I think it's also pretty easy to take a step back and just like find really awesome, cool stuff in people and all that. So I think you should definitely check that out if you can.
Yeah, I made a
Um,
note of the Rock Gods of Jackson, Tennessee. Correct.
Yes, I think it
and
was
then the other
Oni.
one was Hanami.
Yes, yeah. That
Okay,
one is from, I believe, First Second and or Top Shelf, one of the two.
okay,
I think it's Top Shelf. And then I think Rock Gods Jackson C. I think that might have been Oni or I forget who. I'll try to make sure I toss a link in there too or whatever it is. But actually more recently, like, as much as last night, I decided to dip my toes back into superhero comics, and I did. I'm currently on, and I'm not sure I'll keep it, but like I'm on the free trial of the Marvel Unlimited. You know, and I'm a big Wolverine fan. Like that was my dude. You know, like I'm 42, child of the 80s and 90s. Of course, I love Wolverine, right? Um, but like, you know, it was hard for me to like continue on with the series and all that, just because I just kind of like, not that I don't think they're good stories being told, but I've like already read my favorite version of that story already for so many of these things. And I understand there's different things happening, yada, yada, yada. But, you know, I had taken kind of almost like a several year break from superhero comics in general. I'm like, well, let me go back. And I read, I just dove right in because, you know, I'm like, oh, I could start from the beginning of this new volume of the series. Nah, fuck it. I'm just going to go to the thing that looks interesting the most to me. So there's like a whole storyline called the Sabretooth War, which like, you know, it's superhero comics. So like I was able to catch up to like, who are these other people I've never seen before? Okay. That's who they are. Okay. You know, like, because it was written really well by Benjamin Piercy. Some great art by Jeff Shaw. Really, it was billed as like the most violent Wolverine story ever, which it pretty much was. Just guys getting their like faces torn in half and stuff, and all that. But I read the whole like 9 parts or whatever at the end of it. I'm like, oh, that was fun. But then I was like, yeah, okay. And I'm trying to figure out like all day today. I'm like trying to figure out why like I just saw like the most violent Wolverine story in a very long time. Sabretooth just going ham on people and just like it being just like everything 12, 10-year-old, 14-year-old me would be like, hell yeah, this is amazing. And I'm just like, it's good. And I'm like, this is no disrespect to the team behind it, Benjamin Piercy, Jeff Shaw, and I think a few other people whose names are escaping me. Because everything was done really well. Everything read really well. Everything was drawn beautifully. And I'm just like, I guess it's just not for me anymore. I guess it's just, I'm not, I never like, not that I was like, oh man, you know, I expect superhero comics to be for me. I expect my favorite characters, current comics to be for me. But it's just like, oh, I guess they're really not for me anymore. I guess this is not really what's going to like scratch an itch for me anymore. And I say that, and then like the next time you hear me talk about it, I'm like, oh, I've read all the Wolverine. It's fucking awesome. Like it's no, you know, and I completely switched. I flipped my switch. It just kind of struck me as like, you know, the thing, and it might have been my own personal expectations of it. So I don't know if you read many superhero comics or anything like that. Um, but uh, but this whole long-winded thing is leading to me to eventually ask you like, where where's your comics start? Like, where did you? Because the stuff you've mentioned are very much, you know, graphic novels by, you know, very you know
indie.
indie kind of stuff. But where did you start?
Sure. Just a quick note, though. I have both DC Universe Infinite and Marvel Unlimited. And I'm a big supporter because I read. I'm a very eclectic
Hmm.
reader, and so I do read some superhero stuff still. And it's a great way to get to explore without having to fork out like
Yeah,
$4 or $5 for a comic.
yeah, yeah,
And you know, because it's the big two, they got their money.
yeah,
They, you know,
yeah,
I'm going to go with the cheap route and get the digital. But
yeah.
you might enjoy. Benjamin Percy's run wasn't really for me for on Wolverine, but Gail Simone just took over Uncanny X Men, and you
Hmm.
can read the first issue.
Yeah, I
And
did.
Wolverine is in
Yeah,
that, and I
yeah.
thought it's great characterization for Wolverine in that. But
I'm
I don't
glad you
know how
brought
much
that up.
you've
Yeah,
seen it. Yeah.
because I did read the first issue. I just saw that was there, and I like Gail Simone's stuff. I like why am I
Red Sonja.
his no his art the artist. Why am I
Oh,
spacing on his name?
Dave, was it Dave Marquez?
Yes. Sorry, you know I like his work a lot, and I thought it was a really good first issue. Like it was like really well done. I liked like everyone sounded just like I remember. you know,
Hmm.
uh, everything was. I even liked Gambit, which I don't like Gambit.
I'm in the
X
same boat.
X-Men 97. You got me to like Gambit a bit, but like not 100%. Um, but even I even like I even liked Gambit and all that. I thought it was really good. No, I'm probably I say I'm not gonna keep. I'm gonna keep it because there's too many things for me to catch up on now. Cause I'm just scrolling through, and I'm like, and like even though I have it sitting in this closet here, I'm like, oh, I can go read Maximum Carnage right now, or you know what, I never finished. I can go read Executioner's Song again, or
Hmm.
or I can finally read Hoxpot. The House X Powers X stuff that everyone was raving about. Or I can just go read about Jeff the Shark, or, and all that. So I'm most likely definitely going to keep it. And then thanks, shout out to Steve Horton. He sent me a code for a trial membership of Global Comics
Yeah.
app. So there's a lot of interesting looking stuff on there.
Hmm.
Um, Funny to me though, I found myself like reading like Invincible, even though I have all of them, the hardcovers right here. I never finished it though. I never finished it. Like the last two are still wrapped in the plastic, sitting there for like several years because I don't want it to end. I don't want to be okay. This is the end of the story for this book. Because it was one of the first. It was one of the books that really got me back in the comics, and um, I would just get the compendiums and stuff like that as they came out, or the Ultimate Collections, not the compendiums. The not the huge, not the giant thick books, but the bigger, oversized books. And but I just was on my iPad and I saw it there, so I started reading. So I'm probably going to finish the series digitally, even though I got the books right there, uh, and all that. But I'm glad to hear you're saying, you're telling me that it's worth it, because I'm pretty sure, I'm 99% sure it's I'm going to enjoy having, at least for probably the yearly membership, because I'll
Yeah.
forget to cancel it before it's up, and then they'll charge me anyway, and then I'll say, honey, yeah, you see that weird yeah, that was me. I forgot. But yeah, as
but
you're saying, you started where with comics? What was like your first comic?
So I was probably in fifth grade, and my friend Timmy would bring issues of New Warriors by Fabian Nicieza and Mark Bagley. I don't know how you pronounce it. And I thought Vance Astrovic was the hottest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And so I was like, I mean, obviously at that time I didn't realize that's what I was the reason why I was falling in love with comics, but I was like, oh, I really like this. This is really great. I just love the blend of um the art with text, and I just love that connection,
Yeah.
and you don't get that anywhere else. And so then I decided, I convinced my parents to take me to a comic book store, and my first issue I bought, ironically, was New Mutants number 100, which was had final
Mm,
issue stapled across it, and that's what I chose to pick up as my first comic book that I would buy. But then I fell in love with X Men. Of course, X Men has a really, really special place in my heart because of that. And but what's nice about that is that's when right when Image was forming as well.
mhm.
So right out the gate, I was already exploring kind of non big two books because I was picking up Young Blood and Wildstorm comic books, like Stormwatch and Wildcats and things like that. And so I was already like, I know they were popular at the time, but they were non big two at least. And so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was like exploring already a little bit,
Mhm.
and that's what got me into comics. And then as I got older, I just started, especially when I got Marvel Unlimited and DC Universe Infinite and stuff like that. I switched from capes to indie stuff and started reading a lot there, and then mainly like Image or Boom, the big indies. And
Yeah.
then when I started getting into my own comic book writing 3 years ago, because I'm a baby to the indie world, that's when I really started getting into the really deep indie stuff that's like the Kickstarters and all of that stuff. So my repertoire is still expanding kind of thing.
Nice, nice. That's cool that, because I started right around the same time you did. I came into comics probably, I want to say a solid year after Image like hit, because I came in when I was still able to buy the ongoing series of Cyberforce for relatively cheap before like the prices went, because I remember like, oh, there's a mini series before this ongoing series, cool. And then I look up on the wall and it's like $30 for the first issue or something, and I'm like, oh, never mind. Because Mark Silvestri, that was my dude, that was my artist. My
Yeah.
brother was Jim Lee guy, I was a Mark Silvestri guy. He was an Andy Kubert guy, I was an Adam Kubert guy. We had lots of fights about it. And I still believe I'm right. Um, even though they're all great. But uh, so so yeah, I kind of came from the same thing. Like I kind of came right in with like, it wasn't just Marvel and DC, it was Marvel, DC, and Image, and then Dark Horse had a bunch of stuff. And um, I remember like not too long after I got into comics, like the quarter bins were like insane. It was mostly Extreme Studio stuff, but like it was just fun to just go dive into these things and all that. um of the Image like houses, studios or whatever, did you have one that you kind of like gravitated towards the most with their books,
Uh,
or you kind of like all over?
Well, I read them all, but my favorite was Wildstorm, and I still have a
Okay.
really really soft spot in my heart for Wildstorm. So Stormwatch and Wildcats and those
What
books.
works?
Yeah, I read Wetworks. I enjoyed Wetworks a lot. But Stormwatch and Wildcats were my big two that I went to, especially when Alan Moore took over Wildcats.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's when I really was like, oh God, this is writing right here. Like this is amazing. Who is this Alan Moore person? And so that's when
This
I was
guy's got
like,
a
oh.
future.
And then then well, I hate to bring up his name now, but that and then Warren Ellis took over Stormwatch
Yeah.
and the Authority, and I was like, oh my God, these are so amazing. So I was hooked from the beginning. If I were, people ask me sometimes if I were to write like comics, because now DC owns the Wildstorm
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, characters. They ask me all the time if I were to write for Big Two, what would I want to do? And I would want to do some kind of eccentric X title that's not the main ones because I don't have the thickest
Mm-hmm.
skin to to write one of the big ones, or something to do with Wildstorm over at DC. Like those would be the ones I'd go for.
On that topic, since you mentioned like if you were to write something, I've thought about this a lot. I've been asked this a couple of times, just when you usually are just bullshitting with people. But like if I were able to draw like a book for like a Wildstorm character, I want to do Union.
Oh wow, that's
I
a
loved
deep
Union.
cut.
I loved Union. And like I'll go through all the houses. Like I would love to do something with Union. I would love to do something with Vanguard with Eric Larson's. Yeah, I loved Vanguard. He was awesome. Uh, I would love to do something with Codename Strike Force, which I think,
Okay,
as much as I love Cyberforce, I think Codename Strike Force should have been the book he started with,
okay.
because that was different enough from X-Men and that kind of thing that I feel like it would have been better. And you can't beat a character called Killraiser. Like it's just like, come on. But then if I ever have a chance to pitch something or work on something for like an X book, I want to do something with Maverick. Like I want to do a Maverick book. Um, I had an idea. Like I don't care about Tom because I know it's never going to happen. But I'm like, I have this like internal pitch in my head about Maverick leading a team of like, remember LCD and Albert from
No.
Wolverine? The Albert was a Wolverine robot,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and then LCD was the little girl robot thing who talked with the Wisp or whatever. And I'm like, like Maverick, those two, a decommissioned Shiva robot, and like some other um, like maybe like a pacifist clone of Sabretooth or something, and like they're leading an X in there like a covert X team or something, or something like that. But like just something with Maverick. I don't know why. Uh, just something about Maverick. I just love that character so much. I don't know
Well,
why.
everything you're naming does sound pretty metal. So like
True,
literally
true.
and figuratively
Yes,
metal.
yeah. There's metal everywhere. Union has a giant metal staff that comes out of his chest. Vanguard has a metal helmet, a little metal guy that follows him around, robot guy flying around him. So I guess so. I guess so. You got me. You figured out the common denominator here. uh, do you remember when Image did that whole like issue 25 thing
Yes.
where they jumped ahead to issue 25? You know, that and like the whole like crossover month where they each did one of their other one's books. I wish people did more crazy shit like that again. Like,
Yeah.
I know the market doesn't really like support it'd be much more of a gamble for like other creators to do that at this point. For them, it was kind of like a no brainer. This is gonna sell no matter what. But like, I just I kind of wish like we would get more things like that because they seem like really crazy ideas that could be really fun to like have to deal with. Because I know Savage Dragon, he like completely ignored the issue that Jim Lee did. Because I think he released Eric Larson released his own issue 12 or something like that. And I don't think Jim Lee. I think Richard Bennett did most of the work in that art, not Jim Lee. Not Jim Lee anyway. But that's neither here nor there. But like, I just remember like that's kind of crazy stuff that they would do, or like the Image Valiant crossover, Deathmate, like that was
Mm-hmm.
crazy. Like I think that's probably what, like, whenever I feel like what's missing out of like superhero type comics that kind of like excited me. I think it's just that kind of like you didn't know what the hell was going to happen. Like you just didn't
Exactly.
know like when's the next one going to be kind of crazy. I hear Local Man from Tim Seeley and Image is supposed to be like capture a lot of that feeling because it has a lot of those older characters like pop up here and there and stuff like that. So I got to check that out. But
Yeah, I keep hearing really good things about it, but it hasn't really been on my radar to check out immediately or anything like that. But I hear amazing things. But going back to the issue 25 thing, I don't remember if they all paid off, but I definitely remember a couple of them like actually working. And I was like, okay, so they jumped ahead to issue 25 and then they were actually able to make it work. And that was pretty
yeah,
impressive.
I think the Stormwatch one.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they basically kill off everybody
Yep.
for the most part, which is pretty bold. But yeah, that was, and again, I kind of like the more I think about it, the more I think like some of these other Image books, like the second or third title that came out from these studios, those seem like the more interesting books. Because I always felt like Stormwatch was more interesting than Wildcats until Alan Moore, of
Mhm.
course.
No, I
Or
agree.
something like again, Codename Strike Force more interesting than Cyberforce. Um, Extreme Studio, I don't know. They were all
I
kind of young
thought,
blood.
I mean, on that, on that regard, I thought Battalion was better than Young Blood. Like, and I loved how Battalion they like killed off everybody, and they had a
Mhm.
team that you start to like, and then they kill them
Yeah.
all in like the end of the first issue, and
Oh
then it
yeah.
was like, whoa, that was bold.
Was that
Like you're right, you
oh,
don't see things like that anymore.
Battalion? Oh, you mean Brigade? Was
Oh,
it Brigade?
Brigade. One of the
Okay, okay.
characters' names was Battalion. You're right, it was
Okay, okay,
called
yeah, yeah,
Brigade.
yeah.
You're correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was it? I think I liked Bloodstrike because that was such a like it was such an Extreme Studios book where it's just like, oh, they're gonna die, they're gonna get killed. We're just gonna bring them back. They're gonna bring them, like they're like zero stakes, but just an excuse to like get everybody killed whenever you can and all that. Um, and I do have a soft spot in it, but like yeah, like you said, Brigade. It was like not just like not that any of the original titles were like absolutely terrible because I think they all had their place and they all had something interesting in there. I did like with Youngblood how there was a choice to like these are celebrities, kind of like one of the things that a lot of people built on afterwards and stuff like that. Or with Wildcats, um, I don't know. To be honest, it just looked nice. It just looked
Exactly.
nice. Zealot was cool. Warblade, another cool name. How can all that, but like stuff like that. So, but yeah, just I think I just I'm trying to, I think I'm trying to chase that high. If I read like another super, like just something that's giving me something that's like not that I want to be nostalgic about it. It just kind of like has that feeling of like, oh, there's some sort of like urgency to this or some sort of like importance to this. And not that I think they all have to be like that, because like I said, I just read Uncanny X-Men 1 from Gail Simone, and that was a really great book. It wasn't like super fast paced, but definitely had a cool fight in there, great character moments, what you want from an X-Men,
Mhm.
from an X-Men book. But like, that's just one of those things where it's like, I kind of find myself gravitating toward that. So hopefully I can find some stuff like that, going forward. Cause I've been trying to just read more comics, and all that, and really trying to make an effort, because, I get lost in my free time. I'm either doing this or I'm making comics, or I'm trying to make something else. I'm not sitting down and just trying to consume and enjoy, which I need to do, because it's something we all need to do to make ourselves better, to feed ourselves, so to speak. So,
Um, I think the biggest, like most experimental, bold swing I've seen was House of X Powers of 10 when they did that.
okay.
That was
I
like the
hear that a lot.
biggest,
Yeah.
yeah. And
And
now
from
with
what
the
yeah.
Ultimates getting rebooted, the Ultimate Spider-Man title
Mhm.
and the Ultimates title, they're taking some big swings, so that's interesting.
Okay. Yeah.
I
I heard a
think
lot of
you
great
would
things about that.
dig. I think you would dig the new Scott Snyder Absolute Batman book that's about to come out. It looks pretty
Yeah.
hardcore, and you might
I,
want to check
yeah.
it out.
I've heard some great things. There's a great shop in Chicago. I'm about an hour north of Chicago, but I still consider them my shop, Challengers Comics in Chicago. And they have a podcast where they talk about, their business and stuff like that. But they also talk about some comics that come out that they're looking forward to having on the shelves. And they were both really into Absolute Batman. And I'm like, from the stuff they've said, like, they've, a lot of the stuff they've recommended to me, or I've heard they liked, so I gave it a shot, and I ended up liking. They're batting a pretty good high average for me. So I'm like, okay, cool. So yeah, it's definitely something I wanted to check out. The House of X Powers X stuff, from what I've heard, I'm like, this does sound like something that would make me really enjoy X-Men. Like, and it's not that I haven't enjoyed X-Men since I was a kid, but even though I realize now the reference I'm about to bring up is still like 10 years old now at this point. But like the whole like Messiah complex crossover that happened, I don't want to find out the date of that. But that felt like the 90s X-Men to me, like that kind of crossover. It felt like that. And to a lesser extent, like Necrosha or something like that was really good too. But again, these are years and years old now at this point.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely gonna check that out. And the Ultimate Spider-Man, I've heard nothing but great things about. So who's the artist on that?
That is, oh, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't remember. But Nick Jagoda on art over at Absolute Batman. That I mean,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
just the art I'm seeing looks phenomenal. Who is it? I'm
I'm
blanking.
looking it up now just because I need to
Oh, okay.
know. Ultimate Spider-Man. Tell me who the artist is. Oh, Marco uh, Cicchetto.
Okay.
Cicchetto. Um, Regardless, I'm familiar
It's
with his work. He's
beautiful.
amazing. He's amazing. He's fantastic. He's one of the best. He's one of those artists who's like, he's been doing amazing things for years and years and years, and I don't hear enough of like praise about him. But clearly, he's doing fine.
Yeah.
He's on a pretty big book with Jonathan Hickman, launching the Ultimate Spider-Man #1. So, yeah, I've heard a lot of great stuff about that. I haven't heard much about the other Ultimate titles, but
I'm digging the Ultimates, but Ultimate X Men isn't hitting for me.
okay,
But I'm digging the Ultimates and Ultimate Spider Man.
cool. The original Ultimates and Ultimate, like, that was another one of the books, like because I stopped reading comics around 99, just because I just fell out, like everyone was going in directions I really wasn't following and I really wasn't caring for. I was buying so many books at that point. I was buying every single Top Cow book, most of the X books, and like it was just too much. And for a high schooler, like I had no money, so I'm like I can't keep spending my money on this. So I kind of just like stopped cold turkey, and I was fine with it. And then I didn't buy comics for like another 10 years after that. And I jumped in with like Astonishing X-Men and We Three, which is like, I mean, the writer of Astonishing notwithstanding,
Yeah,
it was still a good book, and
for sure.
and a book to bring you back in the comics, especially with, may he rest in peace, John Cassidy's just like stunning art. And then obviously Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely with 3-3. It was like those two books combined. I'm like, oh shit, these are what comics are now. This is awesome. And then next up was like Ultimates and all that, and like that Miller Hitch run on Ultimates was like, I remember very distinctly, like I was just sitting in a Starbucks. My wife and I just love Borders. Remember Borders? I just picked up the Ultimates. I think it was the second. Was it the second? Whichever one had that crazy fold out from Brian Hitch. And I'm just reading this. I'm like, what the hell? Like, man, if they make an Avengers movie, it's got to be fucking this. Like, and it pretty much was. uh, but yeah, so I just remember that original Ultimates run, Ultimate Spider-Man. I remember logging on to the Marvel website because they would post. I think they posted the first few issues of Ultimate Spider-Man up there, and it's like with my little fucking DSL modem, like trying to load the page and just waiting for the next page to load and reading like, wow, I'm reading comics on the computer. This is great. Um, uh, and all that. So so having some fond memories of like getting into the Ultimate line that way. I'm definitely interested in seeing what the new version of that Ultimate line is, because I'm glad it's just not like rebooting Peter Parker again as a teen. Like it's something different. It's and I don't know too much about the book, so I'm excited to dig in and all that. So and if you're telling me it's good, I'm that much more inclined to go check it out as well. So, but it's a still fun time for comics. I don't want this to come across as I'm like not happy with reading comics or whatever. Like, oh, I'm back to reading comics more, and it's just kind of a bummer. No, it's just there's just too many good comics,
Yeah.
you know. And like you said, like I will probably become much like you are with the reading, where reading the Marvel DC stuff on the on the unlimited parts, and then buying Kickstarters,
Yeah.
because that's one of my favorite thing to do, is just like be able to like toss a few bucks to a Kickstarter, get the PDF, throw it in a folder, kick myself because I keep remember wanting to read it, and then eventually sitting down and reading them all in one shot and be like, man, comics are awesome. And then, repeating the cycle. But on that subject, you have an amazing book on Kickstarter right now, along with your fellow editors, called Unseen, Unheard. Could you let us know what is this? What is this book about? What is um, the teams behind it, and anything else you want to let us know about the contents?
Sure. So, Unseen, unHEARD, Disability and Neurodivergence. It's a 64-page anthology, consists of 12 stories, and they all center around tackling what it's like to live with a disability or be neurodivergent. I'm disabled myself. I've been disabled for 20 years. I have fibromyalgia really bad. And when I got into the indie scene, I just noticed that there wasn't a ton of books out there that deal with disabilities and things like that. And so I bonded with Aubrey Lynn Jepson, who was a fellow editor on Scott Snyder Presents Tales from the Cloakroom Volume 1, which I was attached to as well. We bonded and started that Discord server. And then a couple years ago, I fell in love with Anis Abdul Haq's writing, Atheris, Objects in the Mirror, things like that. And Atheris, of course, now Ringo nominated. So congrats to the team
Mm-hmm.
there. And we all are either neurodivergent or have a disability. And so I wanted to bring that team together and explore, throw out an open submission and let anybody that wanted to apply, whether they were award winning disabled writer or artist, or if they were, their first this would be their first comic book. And so we threw out an open submission, and we found a lot of great stories, but we had to narrow it down for the sake of finances. Of course, we had to narrow it down to 12 stories.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so that's what we've done. And they run the gamut from 6 of them explore disabilities and 6 of them explore neurodivergence.
Okay.
And so we wanted an even split like that, of course, because that's what the title of the book is. So, of course, we want to
Mm-hmm.
honor both sides. And they, even though they tackle a disability or being neurodivergent, I want to stress 2 things. They run the gamut of genres. So you got horror, sci-fi, romance, slice of life, fantasy in there. And then also not all of them are depressing. So because I know a lot of people might jump to, oh, disabilities and being neurodivergent and how difficult that can be. This must be
Yeah.
depressing. But no, you got love stories in there, and you got, like, mine is kind of an upbeat story about how I came to terms with my disability, and how it's a part of me now and things like that. So we got about half that got the sad vibes. It's going to twist your emotions a little bit, and we got half that are kind of neutral or good vibes that kind of explore disabilities and neurodiversity. So we're really looking forward to it. We're 50% funded right now. We would love to be more percent funded than that, of course, because the earlier we're
Mm-hmm.
afraid a lot of people are waiting to the last minute, which of course is what a lot of people do. But we're
Yeah.
trying to. We feel good where we're at. We know we're trending well, but obviously, me being an antsy person, I'm like, let's get this funded now, please. Um,
Yeah.
so. Um, but no, we're very happy with the stories. We're very happy with the art that's attached to the stories. The majority of them will be drawn once the Kickstarter funds, of course, because we need the funds from the Kickstarter to be able to finance it. But we really think this has a shot of winning some awards. Like, that's the caliber of stories that we're dealing with, and I don't say that lightly. Like, I'm not just like tooting our own horns over here or anything like that. But we're really impressed with the stories. It kind of blew us away, the quality of the submissions, and we had so many good submissions. We have enough for, or about have enough for about half of a volume 2 already.
Oh,
And
nice.
so we would love to get this one funded, and there be enough exposure for this one to do another one.
Awesome. Awesome. And looking through the Kickstarter page, whatever's previewed already looks really, really great. A nice swath of just like different styles. You can already tell based on the preview pages that are up that you're going to be in store for a bunch of different stories. It's and I love anthologies. I know sometimes they can be a hard sell for some people, but for me, it's just like a perfect sell because it's like awesome. Because I love all kinds of art styles. I love all kinds of stories. Not that that's unique. Everyone does, but like for me, it's like I like having like the shifts and all that, and seeing that because with this overarching theme, it's always interesting to me to see how different art styles interpret different things with that.
Right.
Um, because I could see, it looks like here's a story about dyslexia, um, that looks really interesting, and just the way how everything's being depicted, and then uh, just some of the creators attached, uh, like Laura. Uh, I always, I always
Helsey.
help. Yeah, Laura helps me. I always like want to when I think of their name, I always think Hesby. I'm like, it's not Hesby, it's Helsby. And like, why am I thinking Hesby? Like, it just, but Laura's work has been really, really, really great from the get go, and they're getting just better and better and better. So it's awesome to see that they're attached to the book as well. Mike Morocco was awesome. Just so many awesome creators attached to this, yourself included. Uh, and so it's incredibly daunting, I'm sure. I've never edited an anthology before, and everyone I've spoke to who has, it definitely sounds like something that's amazingly fulfilling, but also completely just edge of your seat, nail biting the entire time. Um, and having been around the Kickstarter horse a few times now, I totally get, like, you want we get funded. Just can we hit the goal, and then I can breathe, and we can work on getting cool stuff for people, and more stuff like that, and more whatever the stretch goals are being planned out, or anything like that. And but first and foremost, I think it's a fantastic idea to do an anthology like this, because it is not something that is out there as prevalent as I think we would all like. As someone with ADHD and PTSD, I I would love to have that kind of representation of a story of some of the things I'm feeling and I experience with, and you know knowing that there's countless others with so many different ways that that interacting with the world is different than everybody else, and
Exactly.
seeing those point of views, and seeing the challenges, or the just unique ways that people have had to live and interact and deal with situations based on just who they are, how their brain works, how their body works. I think that's incredibly awesome that it's something that's being presented now and will hopefully be more than funded, blow past the goal, and enough for y'all to be like, all right, we're rolling right into the next one. And because, like I said, you have enough issues, you have enough stories for like half of the next one, so it's like you're pretty much locked and loaded.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And all of our stretch goals are where the creative teams will just get more money in their pockets. So we're just going straight into, we want to get these creators as much money as possible.
Nice.
And so we're committed to, if we go over that 13.5 goal, then whatever money we get, we're just turning right around and giving to the creators. And we really want to support that. um, Also with anthologies, what I really love is that I like to explore, new artists and new writers.
Mhm.
And if you get an anthology, you're getting 12 to 20 new people that you can creative teams that you can explore
Yes.
and go, oh, this is the book that I want to buy next. This creative
Hmm.
team is what I want to buy. What are they up to? Versus, like, if you just back a random book, you're just getting that one creative team's exposure, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
this way you're like really getting, we have some that have never been published that have turned out some amazing work. We've had to help them out a little bit in the editing process because you got to understand how you're going to talk to your letterer and things like that. This isn't going to work for you because of this
Hmm.
situation, things like that. But it paid off in the end because their scripts are phenomenal. And then, of course, you
Yeah.
got people like Richard Fairgray who have written like 300 comics already, and
Yeah.
but they turn out amazing work constantly. And so we're happy to have people like him on the anthology as well. We just went with the best stories, whether that came
Hmm.
from a brand new person or somebody that was already established. We just were like, we're going to ignore that part and not look at names and just go for that. And
Yeah.
I mean, we're really ecstatic with how it turns out. And we're I'm going to say I'm more on the confident side here, because we're trending well, that we're going to get this published and hopefully win some awards. I'm really excited about that. But also, I wanted to say something else that slipped my mind. Maybe it'll pop back in here in a second.
Well, you have, as of recording, there are 22 days left in the campaign. When this posts, there'll still be well over a week and a half left in the campaign. So plenty of time to get funded. Hopefully, though, by the time this posts, you'll already be funded, and it's just all gravy after that. I am very, as a creator myself, I am super stoked to hear that the stretch goals are all about getting people that bag, getting them, getting that money, because comics are hard work and they take a lot of time. And I'm always on the side of, like, people gotta get paid. Even the writers, you deserve to get paid too. As an artist, I am saying this to you, to you, because you get, y'all don't hear it enough, and my episode before this one, I had Dylan Gilbertson on with another awesome Kickstarter, My Neighbor Necromancer, and
Hmm.
I mentioned this there too. Like, writers, like, I understand how much work you put into the books, editors as well, and letterers, and everyone deserves to be paid something at the very least for their work. So yeah, I'm glad that that was a focus of the stretch goals, or is a focus of the stretch goals, to make sure that, because on top of that, those, these creators who are telling these stories about these disabilities or neurodivergencies that they have, you know, it's hard to get care for that kind of stuff on any type of reasonable amount of a reasonable it doesn't cost, it costs a lot of money to
Yeah.
take care of stuff, and so, I am definitely would want these people who are sharing these stories and doing these things to be able to have some type of money uh over what they're actually expecting for doing this awesome work. Because again, just, I'm glad that Kickstarter seems to be at the place where it's like people aren't like scoffing at people getting paid anymore, because that,
Right.
and I bring that up, I've brought that up a few times on the show. It's just, I don't think, a lot of people, I guess I saw some really just like very vitriolic people against that kind of thing, like almost offended, pearl clutching when people were mentioning that they were getting paid for making their book in the early days of Kickstarter. Like, what? You're getting paid? And like some people saying, don't mention you're giving yourself money on the Kickstarter. You don't mention you're getting paid. Like, why? I am working on this book. I'm putting hours and hours and hours on this book. But regardless, again, the book looks amazing.
Thank you.
I literally just backed it as we were talking,
Oh,
as you
thank you.
discussing it. Of course, how could I forget to mention, Richard Fairgray being part of it, Doug Wood, who's done plenty of great work, in believe both editing and writing anthologies
Mhm.
themselves, and then awesome cover by Skylar Patridge, um, and it's just, yeah, just there's so many awesome things about this Kickstarter that I can't, I can't fathom anyone just skipping out on this. Even like the physical book tiers and all that, they look, everything's like well put, well, like all the tiers look great. The pricing of the tiers is like ridiculously great. I think there's tons of value in each one of these tiers. Are there any tiers in the campaign that you're really excited about, or kind of have like a kind of wish some people would like take advantage of a little bit? Because there's a few here with some like editorial commissions or getting drawn in the book or stuff like that, or uh is there one tier that kind of like is your favorite? Because to be honest, having done some Kickstarters myself, I kind of always have a couple of tiers where I'm like, I really hope people like this one, and it's not always the one that benefits me directly either. But it's just
Uh,
like, yeah.
there's one I'm surprised isn't selling as well as I expected, was the one with the art prints, because you
Okay.
get an art print from each of the three covers.
Yeah.
One by Al Acevedo, one by Arthur Cabezas, and then of course by Skylar Patridge. And I'm like that. I was all in on the art prints. I love art prints. Bookmarks are selling really, really well,
Nice.
and that's awesome. The biggest tier that I love is the one that you pointed out, which was getting drawn into the book, because they're actually going to get drawn into my story most likely.
Oh,
And
nice.
so yeah, so that's really cool. And my artist is up for it. I was like, hey, can you hold off on this one page,
Mhm.
because I don't know what the people are going to look like yet. And he was totally behind it. He was like, yeah, let's whatever we can do to get the campaign more money, let's do it. And
Nice.
it's not that expensive. It's $150, but it's all inclusive. So it includes the book, it includes the art prints, it includes the
Hmm.
bookmark, it includes all the goodies. And so it's
Nice.
a good deal too. And so I'm
Yeah.
hoping we limited it to 5. We've sold 2 of them so far. So I'm hoping we
Cool.
sell the other 3 there.
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited about that one.
Yeah. Those, those are my favorite. With the Evie and the Helsings, we've done a few of the draw-ins, and there's a gentleman. I won't say his name because I don't know if he wants his name out there for it, but I guess for every book, because my co-creator on Evie and the Helsing, Steve Bryant, he's done plenty of Kickstarters before this book and all that. And this is someone who's always like, if you put the drawings here, he seems to be that he loves doing that. He loves, so he's already been in our book twice. and it's I'm hoping he keeps it up, not because I'm like, oh yeah, that's a great money tier for the book and it gets moves along. It's just fun for, like, how am I going to fit this guy in this book for a fourth time, because he's already been a vampire, he's already been a douchey backstage dude at a rock show. Like, I'm just like, what else can I make this guy? Because he seems to be totally game for it all, which I love.
I love
um
that.
but so like, I'm just like that's rapidly turned into one of my favorite things. So hopefully, but it's something you already got two in there. Like, those are kind of the most fun ones, because um you know I always tell my art friends, like, you need a henchman, you need a goon to get stepped on or popped in the head with something, like me. Just draw me. It's fine. It is fine. I am more than happy to be eviscerated, decapitated, whatever, thrown off a building, lit on fire, whatever happens to have bad has to happen to somebody, and you just need to draw someone, and you can't, and you want to think of like a new, just me, just draw me there. I would appreciate it forever, because I've only had one taker, and that was so far it's been Joe Hunter. He drew me in a book many years ago, but I still remember that Joe. I was a security guard kicking out a kid for skateboarding or something like that. Um, but so if anyone wants to experience that joy of just being drawn into a comic, like, that's definitely one of the tiers y'all should check out. The art print one looks really good too, because there's some amazing covers for this book.
For sure.
And I am, it is just, it's almost like when you're putting together a Kickstarter, it's almost like you want to have all this awesome stuff because you just love, you know, comics so much. And it becomes really hard to kind of like, okay, so where I have to draw a line somewhere, because I can't do everything. We can't put everything out there available for
Hmm.
everybody. Um, is there was there a lot of planning for like the covers, or is it kind of like we ended up with three covers as it was,
So
or
we did plan to have three covers. We thought that was a
okay.
good aim right there for people like me who want all three
Mhm,
covers. That's a it's a good package deal to do.
mhm,
But then if you just want to support each one, we knew we wanted at least one to be a little bit of a larger name, and we know Skylar Patridge did a cover for Tales from the Cloakroom Volume 1. And they're really well known in the indie community for sure, and
mhm,
are starting to blow up. I love what they're getting to do with DC right now and things like
mhm,
that. So we knew that we wanted at least a name like that attached to it for a little bit more of a pricey book, but still reasonable price, like you said. And then the other two, basically, what happened is Ennis, and shout out to the other two editors, Arbulin Jepson and Ennis Abdul Haq, which have been amazing. You were talking earlier about how hard it is to do anthologies, and especially with the three of us having conditions that we deal with, we have been able to really lean on each other and help each other out when one of us is waning. And so that's been an amazing experience. But to get back to what you were saying, Ennis knew Al Esaveda already, and they
mhm,
talked to them and were like, "Hey, are you up for doing a cover?" And they were. And all of the artists are also either neurodivergent or have a disability. And so then what I did is we were struggling a little bit with another cover artist. So I just threw it out
mhm.
on Twitter, and we had just a huge response to that, which surprised me. But and so then I grabbed some of those and reached out to them and talked to them a little bit more. And we have a couple lined up for the volume 2 already, that
Oh,
we're
nice.
talking to, and stuff like that if that happens to work out. But that's how the cover artist worked out.
Awesome. Uh, w- one of the questions I wanted to ask, and that you just kind of touched on, is so with 3 editors on this book, um, is how do things kind of get broken up with that? Is it very much what do we need to deal with today, divide and conquer, or do you all kind of have your own specialties, or is it some sort of mix of all of that kind of?
Sure. So we do kind of have our lanes that we're known for. For instance, I'm the number cruncher. I'm the
Mhm.
one that handles the finances up front, trying to figure out what has to be our price point and what's the best price point, what's the best goal, where are we going to break even, kind of thing. Because we editors are not going to be making money off of this. This is pure profit to the creators, and then and so our goal is really like what is manageable. And so I handle the numbers like that. um, Annis and Aubrey are much more known for graphics and visuals, so I try to handle as much text as I can to take that off
Yeah.
their plate, because I can't do the things that they do for sure. And it's interesting because all 3 of us think we're not doing enough, which we're all like, I want to do more, and we're like, no, if you do more, then I'm not doing my part. And so we're
Yeah.
all like trying to do too much, and which is interesting. I'm trying to pick up the load on the podcast and things like that, because Aubrey has some stuff going on, and Anna's with the time zone
Yeah.
issue and things like that. But we have some overlap, but then we also have our individual lanes that we kind of commit to, that we know that that's the person we have to turn to when it's time to do such and such, kind of thing. But then, like I said, what's nice is with the graphics, which does a lot of the heavy lifting, with Annis and Aubrey having an overlap there, is when one of us gets drained, the other one can pick up the slack. And so, especially with those two, and it's been an amazing experience. Uh, Practically conflict free. You can't say completely conflict free, of course, when there are 3 people involved, but practically conflict free. And we get along so well, and we really love each other, and are constantly like saying that, like, I love you so much, blah blah blah. It's been a good experience, and I hope we get to do it again for sure.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that there seems to be a real good synergy between everybody, and like you know, everyone has their superpower,
Hmm.
but also everyone is willing to be like, do you let me lighten your load? I'm like, no, let me lighten. Like, uh, that's I think that's how like a lot of the best work in teams gets done when everyone's respectful of everyone else's workloads, and being able to, or just wanting to help, because it's just to make everything better and easier for everybody else. So I'm glad to hear that it seems to be a very harmonious experience for everybody.
For sure.
And um and if Annis and Aubrey ever like, we'll have to figure out how to get them on the show. We'll have to figure out. We'll figure out the time zone thing. Or that if hopefully there's a volume 2, or once this is all said and done, and maybe the books are going out sometime. I believe next year was the plan and the timeline,
Hmm.
early in the year. You know, when that time's ready, then maybe we could figure something out to get everybody back on.
That'd be
kind of
amazing.
kind of have a post game report. How did it all go? Do you really want to do this again? Type of situation. Um, because that's the thing about Kickstarter is like you finish it, you're like, oh god, I can't, I don't want to do another one, and then like the next day you're like, all right, it's time to start planning the next one.
Exactly.
Um, it's very much back in my 30s, I used to do a lot of running as my main form of exercise. So I ended up doing a lot of 5Ks, half marathon type stuff. And you know, I've never ran a full marathon. I don't think my knees could take it. I'm a heavy runner. Um, I'm not a light person by any means, but I stomp hard when I run. So like I'm pretty sure if I tried to do a full marathon, my knees would just disintegrate. Um, so a half marathon is kind of my limit. But like after I did like, God, how many did I do? I think I did almost 15 of these things.
Oh Lord.
Um, uh, yeah. It is a lot. Uh, Clearly I did not have kids at that point, because it's a lot of training, a lot of long runs on early mornings, to train and all that. But like after I'd finish one, I'd be like, oh God, I'm never doing this again. Next day, oh, look, there's one in spring here. Oh, this looks fun. I never did this one before. You know, oh, this one's in Indianapolis. I can run around the racetrack, you know? So it's very much the same feeling with Kickstarters, which is like you're just wiped, spent, done, and then you're just like the next day you're like, all right, let's do it again.
It
uh,
definitely took Aubrey and me a while to recharge after Tales from the Cloakroom.
mhm.
We got that one done, and I was like, never again, never again. And then it took me a good 6 months before I was like, okay, it's time to do another one.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad Aubrey was on board because both of us were like, no, we're washing our hands of anthologies. That was too much. And then she was like me. She was like, "Yeah, let's do it. This sounds great. Let's." And she was on board. So
When that idea pops in your head, you're like, it's not a choice. You're like, I guess I got to do this now. This is going to
yep,
happen. You know, it's just an inevitability. You know,
yep. I got another 3 or 4 ideas for anthologies lined up already, and I'm like, oh,
it's
that's enough for a
yeah.
couple of years right there.
You know, yeah, that's the curse and the blessing of being a creative. You know, working in a creative thing is just like, you know, I have Evie in the Housings. I'm working on the last issue of this first arc because we're gonna have a second arc next year as well. But I'm also working on 2 pitches with 2 other people for, you know, single issue things that we'd be doing like once a year or whatever. And on top of that, just still like 3 or 4 other things. I'm like, man, I can't wait to get to this, even though I'm really excited about what I'm working on now and these other things that are coming up. And I'm also really excited. It's like there's just not enough time in the day. You know, I almost feel like I want to go the multiplicity route with like Michael Keaton, just clone a few of me. It's okay if one of them's a bit of a dummy. You know, it can't be worse than me already. You know, just can we just get some more stuff done, guys? Or something like that. But yeah, it's I'm glad to hear that you have more plans for more things, because so far your track record has been pretty great. I'm sure unseen and heard will be another home run. Again, you know, by the time this posts, I really hope it's all funded, if not at least damn near close to it. I see no reason why not. You guys have just like, you know, come through the gate. You're it's not a huge goal, but it's definitely a big goal.
Mhm.
13.5. And I know Kickstarters have been kind of having a very hit and miss ratio lately. A lot of Kickstarters I've seen that I'm like, wow, I'm surprised this took this long. This was a nail biter for this person. This, uh, and there's just no rhyme or reason to it. It feels like,
Mm-mm.
especially when it seemed like a couple of years ago, it seemed like everyone was just blowing everything out the water. And now it's just like, man, scratch and claw, and then occasionally a few pop through. But you know, I feel as an observer, experienced observer, I feel very confident in how y'all are doing. I think you're just gonna nail it. It's gonna be great. I can't wait to read the book. As I said, I just literally just backed it as we were talking, because I wanted to make sure I do. I usually do that when I'm talking to someone that Kickstarter. I'm like, that's my reminder to like back it, because because otherwise I'm gonna forget until like the very last minute, and I'll be like one of those people squeaking in at the last like hour, because I'll get that email like, oh, it's almost over. I'm like, oh crap, I forgot. And I don't want to do that to people. I just want to make sure I get it done. But yeah, I really hope uh, when this posts, you're doing a victory lap, everyone's happy, and there'll be plenty of headway for the next volume of this. I think it's an amazing topic for it. I think the way it's being done and the way it's being put together is just perfect. You know,
Thank you.
as someone who has some neurodivergencies, who has people he loves with neurodivergencies and disabilities, this is something I want to have in my house, or I want to have available to like have around for people to read or check out and have others read it, because uh it's important stories that need to be told. And whether they are happy or sad or whatever the gamut is, um, it's never bad when you learn a little bit more about what people have to deal with. You know, it's
Exactly.
it's what brings us to, it's what brings understanding and to each other, and that's what we all need these days. So once again, everyone go check it out, Unseen Unheard on Kickstarter. There'll be links in the show notes. CK, let everybody know where they can find you on social media.
I am at C_K_Carpenter, and that's at Twitter or Instagram. Mainly, and I'm on Bluesky as well. But that one's so long I can't ever say it right. But
There'll be a link.
uh,
There'll be a link. Everyone can go check out the link.
okay. But you can find me on the socials pretty much all at CK Carpenter in some form. So
Awesome. And yeah, everyone, please go check it out. It really is a fantastic looking book, a really important book in terms of the topic, but also just looks good. It looks like it's going to be an excellent comic, and who doesn't love excellent comics? CK, thank you so much for coming on.
thanks for having me.